Liam wiped the sweat from his brow as he surveyed the wreckage of his ship. The crash had been unexpected, but it wasn't his first disaster in space. He had survived worse. This time, however, he had no way to fix the ship without help. Stranded on an unfamiliar planet with thick, green forests and glowing bioluminescent plants, Liam didn't have much of a choice but to explore. He grabbed his toolkit and began his search for materials. As he ventured into the dense undergrowth, the sounds of the planet surrounded him. Strange birds, insect-like creatures, and the occasional roar from something large kept him on. Strange beauty of the planet intrigued him. He had heard nothing about this place in any of the star maps, and that was exciting. There were probably discoveries waiting to be made. Hours passed. Liam found a few rare minerals and some exotic metals, but nothing that could help him fix his ship. Just as he was about to turn back, something caught his eye. Standing near a cluster of large purple flowers was a figure. She was taller than him, her skin a pale blue, and her features were delicate, almost ethereal. Her eyes, large and golden, seemed to glow in the dim light of the forest. She wore clothes that shimmered with a strange metallic hue that reminded Liam of the advanced tech he'd seen in his travels. Liam froze. He had been expecting life on this planet, but not this. The figure was humanoid, but clearly not human. His first instinct was to approach, but then he remembered the stories of hostile alien species he heard in his training. Cautiously, he called out to her. "Hey, are you friendly?" The alien woman didn't move. She stared at him, unmoving, her golden eyes never leaving his. For a moment, the silence felt deafening. Then she spoke. Her voice was clear, though it had a strange musical tone to it. "Human," she said, "you want to mate with me?" Liam blinked, completely caught off guard by the directness of her words. He had never been prepared for such a blunt question from an alien. He took a step back, unsure how to respond. His mind raced. What kind of creature was she? He didn't know what to make of it. Was this some kind of alien custom, or was she mocking him? "Do what?" Liam stammered, his face flushing with confusion. The alien tilted her head, still observing him closely. She seemed calm, almost amused, but there was no sign of hostility in her posture. "You heard me correctly," she said again, her voice steady. "Do you desire to mate with me?" Liam didn't know what to say. He had never encountered anything like this before. He had studied alien species, sure, but this was a whole new level of interaction. This alien, this woman, was not like anything he had seen. Her question was completely out of left field, and Liam had no idea how to respond. It wasn't like he had any experience with alien relationships, or any relationships, for that matter. "No, I don't know what you're talking about," he said, trying to keep his composure. He was trying to form a logical response, but nothing about this made sense. She stepped closer to him, her movements graceful but confident. Her eyes didn't leave him, and he could feel her studying him, trying to understand his reactions. She seemed curious, more than anything else. "You do not desire to mate?" she asked again, sounding genuinely confused. "Humans, all of you, have a strong drive for such things. Is it not true?" Liam cleared his throat, trying to maintain his cool. "Well, yes, but it's not like that. It's not something we just offer to strangers." The alien woman's eyes narrowed slightly. She didn't seem offended, just curious. "Stranger?" she asked. "But you are not from this world. Does that not make you a stranger to this planet as well? Yet here you are, standing before me." Liam couldn't help but chuckle nervously. The alien was right in some ways, but he still couldn't understand where this conversation was going. "You're right," he said, "but it's still not like that." He paused, realizing the tension in the air. "What's your name, anyway?" The alien girl stood still for a moment, her golden eyes blinking slowly, as if processing his question. Then she answered, her voice still soft but firm. "Zara." "Zara," Liam repeated, trying to find some way to break the awkwardness. Well, Zara, I'm Liam. And no, I'm not interested in mating. I'm just trying to fix my ship. Zara tilted her head again. She seemed to be processing his words, but Liam couldn't tell what she was thinking. She stepped even closer, her gaze never wavering. You say you're not interested, she said. Yet you stand here before me. Humans are strange creatures. Liam blinked, unsure how to interpret that. What does that even mean? Zara took a step back, looking up at the sky for a moment. It is no matter, she said finally, her tone shifting. I am curious. You are not like the others I have encountered. Liam didn't know how to respond to that, so he simply nodded. He knew he needed to stay calm and figure out how to communicate with this alien in a way that didn't escalate the situation. He wasn't sure what was going on, but he did know one thing. This was going to be a much stranger encounter than he ever imagined. Liam stood there, still trying to process Zora's words. His mind raced. The encounter had taken a strange turn, and now he had to figure out how to navigate this unexpected meeting with an alien. He couldn't help but feel a little out of his depth. Zara, on the other hand, didn't seem at all bothered by the confusion in the air. She stood with her arms crossed, observing him closely. Her golden eyes flicked from Liam's face to his hands, taking in every detail of his movements. It was like she was trying to understand him. But at the same time, it was clear she didn't fully grasp the concept of personal boundaries. Why do you humans avoid such things? Zara asked, her voice soft but insistent. Where I come from, we do not hide our needs. We are all connected by the drive to survive, to reproduce. It is natural. Liam blinked, caught off guard by her directness. It's not like that, he said, shaking his head. We don't just go around offering that kind of thing to strangers. He gestured toward her, trying to make his point clearer. Zara's gaze softened slightly, though she still seemed confused. But why not? You are here, I am here. We are both alive. Surely we share the same instincts. Liam opened his mouth to explain, but no words came out. How could he explain human relationships to someone who had never known anything other than a purely biological connection to another living being? He took a deep breath and tried again. It's not about just survival or instincts, he said slowly. For humans, relationships are more than just mating. There's love, trust, respect. All of those things come first. Zara tilted her head, clearly struggling to understand. Love, trust, respect. She repeated the words, her tone almost mocking, though not unkind. We do not have such things. We choose mates based on strength and compatibility, not these emotions. Liam felt a pang of sympathy for her. It was clear that Zara had been raised in a society that didn't value emotional bonds the way humans did. But at the same time, he couldn't just accept that way of thinking. He believed that relationships, no matter how strange or foreign, had to be built on more than just basic instincts. You're telling me, Liam said, pausing to make sure Zara was listening, that you've never felt anything more than just physical attraction, never cared for someone beyond what they could provide or what they could do for you. Zara's eyes flashed with something that almost looked like annoyance, but she didn't interrupt him. Instead, she took a small step forward, her voice low and steady. No, our needs are different from yours. We do not waste time on emotions. We are warriors. We are survivors. We do not seek what you call love. Our species does not need it. Zara paused, looking down at the ground. But I wonder if I am missing something. I have never understood these things you call feelings. Liam's mind raced. He knew that Zara wasn't being dismissive. She was simply trying to make sense of his world with what she had learned. It was hard for her to wrap her mind around something as complex as love when it wasn't something her people had ever known. Well, it's different for humans, Liam said, trying to make her understand. Love is about connecting with someone on a deeper level. It's about trust and understanding. It's not just about survival or physical need. It's about being there for each other, even when things get tough. Zora's eyes softened a little. She seemed to be mulling over his words, but still, there was a hint of confusion in her expression. You speak of it as though it is a strength. But I do not understand how such weakness can be useful. Liam chuckled softly, realizing just how different their worlds were. Love isn't a weakness, Zora. It's what makes humans human. It's what helps us get through the hardest parts of life. When you care for someone, really care for them, it gives you strength in ways you wouldn't expect. Zora looked up at him, her golden eyes searching his face. And if I do not care for you, Liam, does that mean I am weak? Liam felt his heart skip a beat. The question was blunt, and there was a touch of vulnerability in her voice that he hadn't expected. It made him pause, unsure of how to answer. He had come here hoping to fix his ship, not to engage in a philosophical debate with an alien. No, I wouldn't say that, Liam replied carefully. But maybe it means you're missing out on something important. Something that could make your life a lot richer. Trust, love, companionship. It's all part of being a person, not just a creature surviving on instinct. Zara remained silent for a long moment, her gaze still locked on him. Then she nodded slowly, though Liam could tell that she wasn't quite convinced. You speak of love as if it is a treasure, Zora said softly. Perhaps one day I will understand. Liam wasn't sure what to say next. He wanted to tell her more, to help her understand, but it wasn't going to happen overnight. All he could do was offer her his perspective and hope that, in time, she would see things differently. Just then, a strange noise echoed through the trees, breaking the tense moment. Both Liam and Zara turned their heads, alert. Something was coming. The peaceful atmosphere that had surrounded them earlier was quickly replaced with a sense of urgency. Zora's eyes narrowed, her posture shifting into a more defensive stance. We are not alone, she said, her voice serious. Liam felt a rush of adrenaline. Whatever was approaching, it wasn't friendly. But as he looked at Zora, he realized that they would need to work together to survive. They were in this alien world together now. And maybe, just maybe, this strange encounter was the beginning of something more than he had ever expected. Liam's heart raced as the strange sound echoed through the jungle, louder now, moving closer. Zara, standing beside him, immediately tensed, her sharp eyes scanning the dense foliage. The peaceful, almost calm atmosphere from just moments ago had vanished, replaced by a palpable sense of danger. What is it? Liam whispered, though he knew Zara would probably have a better idea than he did. The planet's creatures had remained hidden for the most part, but now something was approaching. His instincts told him to run, but Zara's calm demeanor told him that wasn't the best course of action. Zara didn't answer immediately. She crouched low, her body blending in with the environment as she prepared herself for whatever was coming. Liam followed her lead, trying to steady his breathing and focus on the sounds around him. The air was thick with tension. He could hear rustling from the bushes ahead, and the sound was growing louder with each passing second. Then, from behind a cluster of trees, a large creature emerged. It was unlike anything Liam had ever seen. The beast was massive, with thick, leathery skin that shimmered under the sunlight. It had sharp claws and glowing red eyes that fixed on Liam, and Zara with predatory intent. The creature sniffed the air, its massive form shifting forward in a slow, deliberate motion. Liam's instincts screamed at him to run, but he didn't. He turned to look at Zara, who stood up, seemingly unfazed by the monstrous creature in front of them. "What is that?" Liam whispered, his voice trembling slightly. Zora's golden eyes never left the creature. A tharka, a hunting beast. It only attacks when it is hungry or threatened. Liam swallowed hard. So it's dangerous. Zora nodded, but her calmness seemed to suggest she wasn't as afraid as he was. Yes, but it is not impossible to defeat. The Tharka values strength above all. If you can prove yourself, it will leave us. Liam wasn't sure if he had heard her right. Prove myself. How? Zora looked at him, her gaze steady and unflinching. Fight it. Liam's eyes widened in shock. Fight that thing. Are you serious? Zora didn't answer immediately. Instead, she stepped forward, moving with purpose toward the creature, who had now stopped in its tracks, as if sizing them up. The Tharka's claws scraped against the ground, and its breathing became heavy. Zara stood tall and confident, her posture displaying both readiness and calm. Liam, still rooted to the spot, watched in disbelief. The alien woman had no fear. She had faced down beasts before, and it was clear she had no intention of backing down. He could feel his pulse racing as he struggled to comprehend what was happening. There was no way he could take on something like that. His mind raced, considering every possible way out of this, but none of them seemed like real options. Zara turned to him, her eyes softening just slightly. You do not have to fight it with strength alone. You must show that you are worthy. She didn't offer much else, but Liam understood the message. In her world, everything was about proving one's worth. If he wanted to survive this and gain Zara's respect, he needed to show that he had the courage to face the challenge, even if it seemed impossible. Liam swallowed, trying to gather his thoughts. He didn't have much in terms of physical strength compared to this massive creature, but he had one thing the Tharka didn't: his wits. He remembered the tools he had gathered from his ship earlier. Maybe they could help. Taking a deep breath, Liam stepped forward cautiously, keeping his eyes on the Tharka. His mind worked quickly, weighing his options. The creature wasn't charging, but it was watching, waiting for any sign of weakness. Hey, Liam called, trying to sound confident. His voice broke through the tense silence, and the Tharka's head snapped toward him. It was like the beast was waiting for. Zora looked at him, giving him a brief, encouraging nod. That was all he needed. Liam took another step forward and pulled out a long metal rod from his bag of tools. He knew it wouldn't do much against the creature's strength, but it might make a good distraction. He swung it in the air, creating a loud noise, hoping it would catch the Tharka's attention. The creature flinched, its focus narrowing onto the noise. Come on, you ugly thing, Liam shouted, holding the rod in front of him like a weapon. He was hoping to provoke it, make it charge, and give him a chance to move. The Tharka roared, a deep guttural sound that sent vibrations through the ground. It lunged forward, its claws outstretched. Liam barely had time to react. The ground shook as the beast moved with terrifying speed. Zara acted immediately. She leaped into the air, her body moving with incredible agility. She grabbed hold of a vine hanging from a tree and swung herself around the Tharka, landing behind it with grace. The creature hissed, clearly confused by her sudden move. Zara didn't waste any time. She moved quickly, using her skills to confuse the beast and keep it off balance. Liam could barely keep up with the speed of the battle unfolding before him. He had thought about running, but something inside him told him to stay, to prove that he wasn't afraid. In a flash, Zara moved in again, using a sharp metal spear to strike at the creature's vulnerable side. The Tharka howled in pain, retreating a few steps, but it wasn't done yet. Liam's heart was racing, but he saw a new opportunity. As the creature turned its attention toward Zara, Liam quickly grabbed a large rock and threw it directly at the Tharka's head. The rock hit its mark, and the beast staggered. It growled, but instead of attacking, it took one final look at Liam and Zara. With a huff, it turned and bolted into the forest, vanishing into the trees. Liam stood frozen for a moment, still catching his breath. Zara, meanwhile, stood tall and unbothered, as though nothing had happened. "Well done, human," she said with a nod. "You have proven your strength." Liam let out a relieved sigh. His heart was still pounding in his chest, but he couldn't help but feel a sense of pride. He had done it. He had faced the Tharka and lived to tell the tale. I wasn't sure if that would work, Liam admitted, trying to calm his nerves. Zara smiled, a rare expression for her. Your mind is just as important as your body, Liam. You have earned my respect. Liam smiled back, his thoughts racing. If this was what Zora's world required to earn respect, he was beginning to realize just how much he had to learn. Liam felt the weight of Zora's words lingering in the air as they both stood in the jungle, the Tharka now long gone. The challenge was over, and the beast had been driven off, but a new kind of tension filled the space between them. Zora's words, though brief, carried a weight that Liam couldn't ignore. She had said that he had earned her respect, but part of him wondered if she truly understood what that meant. For the first time, Liam began to see how different their worlds were. As they made their way back to the small clearing where Zara had first appeared, the sounds of the jungle surrounded them. The air was thick with the scent of alien plants, and the occasional distant call of strange creatures echoed through the trees. Despite the danger they had just faced, the peaceful environment around them made everything feel almost unreal. It was as if they had stepped into a world that neither of them fully understood. Liam glanced at Zara, her posture as confident and composed as ever. Her alien features were so striking and otherworldly that it felt strange to even think of her as someone he could have a conversation with. She was like no one he had ever met before. There was something almost otherworldly about her, something that made him feel both awestruck and uncertain. As they walked, Zara broke the silence. "You did well today, human," she said, her voice steady, but there was a hint of warmth in it. "You showed courage, not just with the Tharka, but in how you approached the challenge." Liam scratched the back of his neck, feeling a bit awkward. "I just did what I had to do," he said, trying to downplay the moment. "I mean, I wasn't just going to let it attack us." Zara nodded, her golden eyes focused ahead as they continued walking. "Yes, but it takes more than just reaction. You thought, you adapted. You used your mind, not just your strength. That is what separates you from many others." Liam didn't know how to respond. He was still trying to process everything that had happened since his ship had crashed. He had been thrown into an alien world, a place so different from Earth, and now he was here, talking to a woman from another species who didn't even fully understand human emotions. "Zara," Liam began, his voice quiet. "I don't mean to sound like I'm pressing you, but when you said you don't understand love, do you really mean it?" Zara's steps faltered for a moment, and she turned to face him. "Yes," she answered simply. "Where I come from, we do not have love in the way you describe it. We bond for survival, for strength, for the betterment of our species. There is no need for love as you call it." Liam tried to imagine a world like that, a place where people didn't care about emotions, where relationships were based only on strength and survival. It seemed so cold, so distant from everything he had ever known. "But," Zara continued, her voice softening, I wonder what it would be like to feel something more, to care for someone beyond what they can do for me." Liam was surprised by her honesty. It wasn't something he had expected from her, especially not after their earlier conversation. He had thought that Zara would remain distant and unemotional, but now he saw a glimpse of something deeper, a side of her that seemed to want to understand more. "What made you start thinking about it?" Liam asked, genuinely curious. Zora paused, looking up at the sky. The suns were beginning to set, casting an orange glow over the horizon. "When I first met you," she said slowly, "when I saw how different you were from anyone I had ever known. At first, I thought you were just another weak creature, but then you showed me something I had never seen before, something I could never have imagined." Liam's heart skipped a beat. "What do you mean?" Zora looked at him with a gaze that was filled with a mixture of curiosity and understanding. "You showed me what it means to care for someone, not because you had to, but because you wanted to. Your emotions, They are a mystery to me. But I feel something when I am near you, a sense of trust, of connection. Liam felt a lump form in his throat. He wasn't sure what Zara was trying to say, but for the first time, he felt a connection with her that went beyond the language of their words. She was trying to understand what it meant to care for someone, to experience the emotions that humans felt so deeply. And despite the differences between their cultures, there was something in her voice that made Liam believe she wasn't as indifferent as she appeared. "I guess we're not so different after all," Liam said softly, his voice almost a whisper. Zara raised an eyebrow, looking at him with mild confusion. "How do you mean?" "Well," Liam began, "you've been through so much already. You've survived, you've fought, you've done what you had to. But now you're questioning everything. You want to understand love. You want to understand what it's like to truly care for someone, even if you don't know how to yet. Isn't that what humans do too? We go through life, facing challenges and figuring things out as we go. And in the end, it's the connections we make that define us." Zara's eyes narrowed as she considered his words. Then, without warning, she smiled. It was a small smile, but it was genuine. "You are strange, human," she said softly. "But there is something about you." Liam smiled back, his heart feeling lighter. "I guess I'm starting to feel that way about you too, Zara." They stood there in silence for a moment, the last rays of sunlight casting a warm glow around them. For the first time since he crash-landed on this strange planet, Liam felt a sense of peace. He was no longer just trying to survive. He was beginning to understand this alien world, and more importantly, he was starting to understand Zara. As they continued walking through the jungle, Liam couldn't help but feel a sense of hope. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he knew that he wasn't facing them alone. And perhaps, just perhaps, Zara might one day understand the kind of bond he had spoken about, the bond that went beyond survival. The days that followed were strange. Liam and Zara spent more time together than ever before. Each day, they traveled further into the planet's lush jungles, searching for materials that could help Liam repair his ship. They learned to work together, each day bringing new challenges and new lessons. Despite the danger of the wild creatures and the harsh environment, there was a sense of calm that settled between them. Zara, with her alien calmness and advanced skills, had taught Liam to adapt to this unfamiliar world. Liam, in turn, had begun to show Zara the things she had never experienced: emotions, connections, and the complexities of human nature. Still, there was an underlying tension between them, a quiet pull that neither of them could ignore. As the days went on, Liam couldn't help but notice how his feelings for Zara had changed. He found himself thinking about her more and more. It wasn't just her physical appearance, though that too was impossible to ignore, but the way she spoke, the way she moved, the way she saw the world. There was something magnetic about her. Zara, on the other hand, seemed to be struggling with something more internal. She would catch herself staring at Liam from time to time, her golden eyes softening when she thought he wasn't looking. It was as if she was torn between the world she knew and the strange new emotions that Liam had unknowingly awakened within her. One evening, as they set up camp near a calm river, Zara spoke, her voice unusually hesitant. "Liam, do you believe humans are the only ones who feel this way?" Liam, who had been setting up a small fire, paused and turned to face her. "Feel what?" Zara bit her lip, a sign that she was unsure of how to explain herself. "You speak of emotions, love, trust, bonds. Do you think other species can feel these things too?" Liam sat down beside her, his heart racing slightly at the vulnerability in her voice. He had never expected Zara to ask such a question. "I think every species feels emotions in their own way," he said thoughtfully. "We all experience things differently, but I believe there's a connection that all living beings share. It's what makes us alive." Zara nodded slowly, looking down at the fire. "I have never experienced these emotions, but I feel something for you, Liam. Something I do not fully understand." She looked up at him, her golden eyes intense. "It is confusing. I was taught to fight for survival, to think only of strength and power. But now I question whether there is more." Liam's breath caught in his throat. For a moment, he didn't know what to say. Zara had never been this open with him before, and it was a side of her he wasn't sure how to respond to. He had known that their relationship was shifting, but hearing Zara speak about it so openly made everything feel more real. "You don't have to understand it right away," Liam said gently, his voice soft. "I don't expect you to. But I think that what we're feeling is important. Maybe even more important than survival or power." Zara's lips parted slightly, as if she were about to say something, but then she stopped herself. She looked away, staring into the fire for a moment. "I do not know if I am ready to embrace this feeling." Her voice was low, almost a whisper. "But every time I look at you, I feel something I have never felt before. It is unsettling." Liam's heart ached as he looked at her. He knew this wasn't just about the physical challenges they had faced together. It was something deeper, something that neither of them fully understood, but both felt. He reached out slowly, not sure how she would react. But Zara didn't pull away. Instead, she leaned in slightly, her eyes never leaving his. For a long moment, they simply stared at each other, the silence heavy with unspoken words. Finally, Liam spoke, his voice barely a whisper. "Zara, I think we're both in the same place here. Neither of us understands everything, but I can tell you this. I want to get to know you more. Not just as an alien or a stranger, but as you. I care about you." Zara's expression softened, her golden eyes searching his face for any signs of insincerity. When she found none, she nodded slowly. "I do not know if I can feel the same way you do, but I want to try. I want to understand this bond between us." Liam smiled, a sense of relief washing over him. He had known for a while that he was developing feelings for Zara, but hearing her acknowledge it, her willingness to try, made his heart soar. "Take your time," Liam said, his smile warm. "I'm not going anywhere." The tension between them shifted, not gone, but somehow different now. There was an understanding in the air, a shared moment that neither of them could deny. For the first time since their paths had crossed, they weren't just surviving. They were learning, evolving, and perhaps finding something even more important than survival. As the stars began to appear above them, Zara leaned back, her gaze turning toward the sky. "I never thought I would find this connection," she said quietly. "But now I wonder if it is the key to something greater." Liam followed her gaze, his thoughts racing. He had no idea what lay ahead, but he was beginning to believe that maybe, just maybe, he hadn't crash-landed on this strange planet by accident. Perhaps this was his chance to explore something beyond the limits of survival, to discover the true meaning of connection. For the first time since his arrival, Liam felt hopeful. Whatever the future held, he knew that with Zara by his side, they could face it together. The days seemed to pass by faster now, each one blending into the next. Liam and Zara continued to work together to repair his ship, traveling deeper into the jungle each day. The challenges they faced no longer seemed as daunting. With Zara's help, Liam had learned how to adapt to this alien world, how to read the signs of the environment, how to gather food, and how to use the resources around him to survive. But it wasn't just the survival skills that were changing. Something else was shifting between them. There were moments now when they would share a glance, a quiet understanding passing between them, something that went beyond mere communication. Liam found himself thinking about Zara more often than he expected. He would catch himself looking at her when she wasn't paying attention, studying the way she moved, the way her golden eyes reflected the light of the twin suns. She was unlike anyone he had ever known. For Zara, the feelings were just as confusing. She had always lived by a code, focused on survival and strength. But now, in the presence of Liam, those ideals seemed to be shifting. She found herself thinking about him more and more, wondering what it would be like to truly understand the emotions he spoke of. Love, trust, companionship, these were things her people had never known. But now, they seemed to be becoming more than just abstract concepts. They were beginning to feel real to her, too. One evening, as they sat around a fire, the air thick with the scent of the jungle, Zara spoke again. Her voice was quieter than usual, her words more measured. "Liam," she said, her golden eyes locked on the flames. "I have been thinking." Liam looked up from the fire, his heart beating a little faster. "About what?" Zara paused for a moment, choosing her words carefully. "About us. About what you said the other day. About love." Liam felt a lump form in his throat. He hadn't expected her to bring it up again so soon. He had hoped that maybe, with time, things would feel clearer for her, but now it seemed the moment had arrived. "What about it?" he asked, his voice steady but his thoughts racing. "I do not fully understand it," Zara began, her voice thoughtful. "But I feel something when I am with you, something I cannot explain." She paused, searching his face for some sign of understanding. "You said you care about me, but I do not know what that means. I do not know what it feels like." Liam's heart skipped a beat. This was the moment he had been both dreading and hoping for. The moment when Zara would either embrace what she was feeling or push it away, unsure of how to handle it. He had never expected things to move this quickly, but now that they were here, he knew he couldn't hold back. "I know it's hard to understand," Liam said softly, leaning forward. "But what I feel for you, Zara, is more than just being here, on this planet, trying to survive. It's about who you are. It's about the person you are, and the person you're becoming." Zara's eyes softened at his words, but there was still hesitation in her gaze. "I don't know how to be this way," she admitted quietly. "I don't know how to feel the way you do." Liam could see the struggle in her face, and he understood it more than she knew. He had been in her position once, uncertain, unsure of what it meant to open up to someone, to trust them completely. But he had come to realize that trusting someone wasn't about having all the answers. It was about being willing to try, even when things felt complicated. "You don't have to understand it all right away," Liam said gently. "You don't have to have all the answers. But if you're willing to try, if you're willing to see where this connection takes us, then maybe we can figure it out together." Zara looked at him for a long moment, her golden eyes searching his face. It was as if she were looking for something she couldn't quite name. Then, without warning, she reached out and touched his hand. It was a simple gesture, but it sent a shock of warmth through him. "I want to try," Zara said quietly, her voice softer than Liam had ever heard it. "I want to understand what it means to care for someone like you care for me." Liam smiled, a genuine, relieved smile. He hadn't expected this, but it was exactly what he had hoped for. Zara was willing to take that first step, even if she didn't fully understand what it meant yet. "I'm glad," Liam said, his voice thick with emotion. "I promise, Zara, I'll be here for you. No matter what. We'll figure this out together." As they sat by the fire that night, the flames dancing in the cool night air, Liam realized that this planet, this strange and dangerous world, had brought them closer together. He had crashed here, expecting only to survive, but now he was beginning to see that survival was only a small part of what life could be. Zara sat beside him, her posture relaxed, her golden eyes reflecting the firelight. "I used to think I was alone," she said, her voice soft, "that no one could understand me. But now, I think maybe I was wrong. Maybe we are all connected in ways we cannot see." Liam looked at her, his heart full. "I think you're right," he said, his voice barely above a whisper. "We're all connected. And sometimes, the connections we make are the most important part of survival." Zara turned to him, her eyes locking onto his. "I trust you, Liam," she said simply, "and I care for you." Liam felt a lump in his throat, The words he had been waiting to hear. He had known, deep down, that this was the beginning of something important. But hearing her say it out loud, feeling the weight of her trust in her words, made everything feel so much more real. "I care for you too, Zora," he replied, his voice thick with emotion. "More than I ever thought possible." They sat in silence for a while, the only sound the crackling of the fire and the soft rustle of the trees in the wind. For the first time since his crash, Liam felt like he had found something worth fighting for. It wasn't just survival anymore. It was something deeper, something more meaningful. As the stars above them filled the sky, Zara spoke again, her voice quiet but filled with certainty. "I do not know what the future holds for us, but I am not afraid anymore." Liam looked up at the stars, the vastness of the universe stretching out before them. He didn't know what the future held either, but for the first time, he felt ready to face it. With Zara by his side, he knew they could face whatever challenges lay ahead. "You don't have to be afraid," Liam said, his voice steady. "We'll face it together, no matter what comes." Zara smiled, her eyes reflecting the stars. "Together," she repeated, and for the first time, the word felt like it meant something real. And so, under the vast sky of an alien world, two beings, so different yet so alike, sat side by side, ready to face whatever came next. No longer just survivors, but companions on a journey they were only beginning to understand.